Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the best supports for patch 6.13. So this patch, there were quite a few changes to support. A few of the items got pretty big buffs and pretty big changes to them, and Lulu also got a pretty nice buff this patch. So my list is actually quite a bit different from the last time I did one. I think it was back in 6.10 or 6.11. So with that being said guys, let's get started. So first on my list is going to be Soraka. So Soraka was one of those supports this patch who does benefit from the Ardent Sensor and Mikhail's changes. I think that the Ardent Sensor item is just really strong right now. I was trying it out in a few of my games recently, and it just feels like such a good item. I was also doing some research on the item, and supports that do end up building that item have a much higher win rate than supports that end up building like pretty much every other support item in the game. So I would definitely recommend building the Ardent Sensor as like your second or third item for sure, especially if you are playing with an AD carry like a Kog'Maw or a Jinx or a Twitch. Soraka is still super annoying to play against because of her heals, and she's going to be even more annoying now because if you get Ardent Sensor and Mikhail's on Soraka and you have your Mastery on as well, which gives you the extra 10% on your heals and your shields, you're going to have an extra 45% now on your heals and your shields, which is just absolutely crazy, and I think that this is going to make Soraka a really good pick this patch. She also does have a pretty strong laning phase as long as she isn't going up against someone like a Blitzcrank or a Thresh, and as long as she doesn't get like CC'd in the laning phase, then she can definitely do very well, especially if the enemy team does focus the AD carry, because then she can just heal them back up to full HP. Her AoE silence is really good for team fighting as well. I think that this is a very underrated part to Soraka's kit, and you want to make sure you are using this in the right situation in a team fight because it can definitely change the momentum of a fight for sure. A few cons to Soraka are that she is a very squishy support champion, so you do have to be careful, like I said, in the laning phase if you are going up against someone like a Blitzcrank. And she also doesn't have any strong engage or disengage either, so if your top lane and your jungle picks are already locked in and you don't have any engage from those roles, then in that situation I would not pick Soraka. So next up is going to be Janna. Janna is probably the best peel or disengage support in the game right now. She doesn't do a whole lot of damage, but she does a really good job at keeping her AD carry safe. A lot of the AD carries right now are immobile. We're seeing a lot of Ashe, Misfortune being played, and those AD carries, they don't have gap closers, so this makes Janna a really good pick with them because it just allows her to keep them really safe in those team fights. The Ardent Sensor item is also great on Janna, so I would recommend picking that up as your second or third item. She's got really good crowd control in her kit. Her shield is really strong, and it's going to be even stronger this patch with the Ardent Sensor changes. Her disengage is probably some of the best in the game, like I touched on earlier, and she does scale really well with ability power too. So if you get ahead with Janna, you could go for a cheeky Mejai's build on her. You could pick that up as your first or second item. If you are doing really well in the laning phase, it's kind of a high risk, like high reward item, but if you are doing well and you're confident that you're going to snowball the game, you could pick that up. And the bonus AP that you get now on the Ardent Sensor, that item got an increase of 20 AP. That's definitely going to help her out a lot now, and it just means that her ultimate is going to heal for more in team fights. And a few cons to Janna are that she does have a weaker engage compared to a lot of the other supports, so if your team is lacking engage, then picking her in that situation probably isn't the best idea. And she also does rely on her AD carry to go aggressive. If you're playing with a Janna and her ultimate is off cooldown, then make sure you do go a little bit more aggressive because Janna is going to be there to back you up with her ultimate and with her Howling Gale, so there really is no reason why you shouldn't be going a little bit more aggressive when you are playing with a Janna. Next up is going to be a champion that we have not seen in the meta for the support role at least in a really long time, and that champion is Lulu. So if you guys don't know the changes that Lulu got this patch, her W got a really nice change to where it now gives attack speed, and her Q also got a change to where it now slows for 2 seconds at all ranks. The major change was to her W though, obviously, and I really don't know what Riot was thinking when they gave Lulu this new attack speed on her W, I really think this is going to be too strong because not only does it give movement speed, it also gives the attack speed now. So if you do end up maxing your W, once you get that maxed out and once you get to mid-game teamfights, you're going to have 35% attack speed on whoever you place this W on now, and I think that's just going to be really strong, especially on AD carries like Kog'Maw or Jinx or Twitch. More of these immobile AD carries could be a lot stronger this patch if Lulu does become a pick or ban champion. So if Lulu is locked as like the first or second pick on your team, then I think this patch is probably the best patch to play the immobile AD carries like Kog'Maw, because Lulu's probably one of the best supports at keeping her AD carry alive. She does have the movement speed buff with her W, she's got the shield with her E, and then she also has her ultimate, which gains whoever she places on health. So overall, Lulu's just a really strong peel support and a really good support at keeping her AD carry safe. She is also pretty strong at all stages. She's got pretty good poke in the laning phase with her Q and her auto attacks. And then once you do get to late game, when you place your W on your AD carry or whoever you place it on, they're going to be really hard to kill, and if you do place it on your AD carry, then the amount of attack speed they're going to have is just going to be absolutely crazy. And a few cons to Lulu are that she doesn't have any hard engage or hard disengage, so if your team is lacking that, in that situation, picking Lulu may not be the best idea. And she also does take good decision making to be able to play her to her fullest potential. Her W can be placed on both her teammates and on the opponents, as well as her E, so you really do have to judge whether or not it's going to be a better idea to give your AD carry the movement speed and attack speed, or end up polymorphing the opponent who tries to dive in on your back line. And also, you do have to judge who you should be using your ultimate on as well. You might like just want to use your ultimate on your tank, but a few seconds later, if your AD carry ends up getting dove on, then saving your ultimate probably would have been the better idea. So overall, she does take a little bit more skill to play, I guess, than some of the other supports. So next up is going to be Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank did get a nerf to his ultimate this patch. The cooldown did get increased, but honestly, that nerf is not going to affect him at all. Blitzcrank is still Blitzcrank. He still has his hook, which makes him a really good pick. If you can just get that one hook in the laning phase on the enemy support or AD carry, then you can just snowball the lane out of control, and you can just end up winning the game by getting that one good hook off. His ultimate cooldown increase, I did play him and I really didn't even notice the change at all. I think it's at 60 seconds now at rank 1, but honestly, 60 seconds is like a good cooldown for an ultimate, because let's say you're playing Blitz in the laning phase, you get a kill on the enemy AD carry at level 6, well, by the time they get back to lane, let's say their death timer is around 20 seconds, by the time they get back to lane, your ultimate's gonna be up pretty shortly, so I really don't think that this is going to affect him. Obviously, it's a nerf, and you probably will have to play around it a little bit, just wait to go for that engage by like maybe 15 or 20 seconds now, but overall, Blitz is still going to be a great pick in this coming patch. A few cons to him are that he is pretty skill shot reliant with his Q, and he also does not have the best disengage for any support. And to round out the top 5 for this patch, I have Zyra. So Zyra, like Blitzcrank, did get a nerf this patch, but honestly, it's not going to affect her at all. Zyra is still going to be Zyra. She still has the great poke with her Q in the laning phase, as well as her plants. I feel like whenever I'm playing AD carry against a Zyra, I can just never farm safely without feeling like I'm going to get poked down, and I'm gonna get hit by that Q, get hit by the plants, get procced by the Thunderlords, and be at like half HP. She's just such an annoying support to play against. I would probably say she's more annoying to play against than a Soraka, to be honest, especially if you are playing as AD carry. So because Zyra does have really good damage in her kit, she also does provide some pretty good crowd control with her E and her ultimate. She is still going to stay a great pick for this coming patch. One con to Zyra is that she is pretty squishy in the laning phase. She does not have a heal or a shield, so if you are going up against a Zyra, I would definitely recommend picking someone like a Blitzcrank, because if you can get that one hook on her in the laning phase, then you can definitely shut her down. And I think that if you don't end up winning lane against Zyra, it's just going to be really hard to beat her in the mid to late game, because she's going to build damage. She's going to be probably dealing the most damage for her team. Like honestly, support Zyra is just pretty disgusting, because when I look at the damage dealt at the end of the game, usually the Zyra support has the most damage dealt, or she has like some of the most damage dealt, maybe even more than her AD carry or her mid laner. So overall, just try to shut her down in the early game, because if you can't, then she's going to be a really strong pick come mid to late game. So first up on the honorable mentions is going to be Sona. So Sona is also a support who did benefit from the Ardent Sensor changes. I would definitely recommend picking up Sona this patch and buying that item on her. She does do pretty good damage for a support. Her Q in the lane phase can do a really good job at poking down the enemy AD carry and support. Her ultimate is a great tool as well for looking for those engages in mid to late game team fights, and it's also a pretty good disengage tool if your AD carry does end up getting jumped on. So overall, Sona is a pretty strong pick this patch. Next up is going to be Karma. So like a lot of the supports on this list, she also does benefit from the Ardent Sensor changes. When I did play her this patch, her Mantra E is just absolutely crazy now. I think I had the 45% bonus on my heals and my shields, meaning I did have the Mikhails, I had the Ardent Sensor, and I also had the Mastery on. So her E just does an insane amount now, or it shields for an insane amount. So I think that using the Mantra E in team fights is definitely the only thing you want to do now as Karma. I feel like using the Mantra Q is just not really necessary, and it's gonna deal damage, but I feel like the amount of shield you get from her E now is just going to make that the go-to Mantra ability. So overall, Karma is also a pretty strong pick this patch. Next up is going to be Nami. So I'm starting to feel a little bit repetitive by saying this, but the Ardent Sensor item is also great on her because she does have the heal with her W. She is a pretty good overall support too. She's got good engage and disengage with her ultimate. She's got nice peel with her Q as long as you can hit it. I think that she is quite a bit harder to play though than some of the other supports in the game. Her Q, you do have to predict where the enemies are moving in order to be able to hit it, because it does have a little bit of a delay on it. And her ultimate, I find whenever I play with Nami, they just use their ultimate in the weirdest situations and they don't use it correctly. So I feel like if you can play Nami correctly and you have practiced her a lot, then she can be a great pick for support, but she's not a support that you can just pick up right away and start doing really well on. So lastly guys, I do want to mention a tank champion, because I didn't mention one, I guess, other than Blitzcrank, if you want to count him as a tank champion. So the tank champion I want to mention is Braum. I think that if your team does need a tank, then Braum is definitely the best tank champion that you can go with right now. He does have a really strong crowd control kit. He's got the slow on his Q, he's got his passive, and he's also got his ultimate. And not to mention, he does a really good job at peeling for his AD carry with his ultimate and as well as his E. So if your team's lacking a tank, then I would pick Braum. So that is going to be all for this video guys. If you did enjoy, then don't forget to leave a like, subscribe if you guys have not already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.